Hi, Corey Kroll here with another LiveTime training video. Today's video is going to go over detailed timetables. So we've talked about the ability to do countdowns, just simple, I finish the race and then after 30 seconds I'll switch to the next one, things like that. But LiveTime has a much deeper timetable system if you want to use it. It's called detailed timetables, and you can access it the same way you can access the countdown by clicking on the clock in the lower left. So by doing that, I can switch to this third option, detailed timetables. And by default, it's just giving me a blank list here, or grid, and just saying, okay, go ahead and fill in the timetable. So let me back up just a bit. I've already created an event, and I've already created a round. If I go into the heat mains for this round, you can see there are 3 races in my Q1, my first qualifier round. And I would like to start the event later on today. So let's say I'm a club and we do, weekly races, and today I'm going to do it, and I'm going to start it at 5 p.m. and end it at 11. I've already created this event, I've already registered the drivers, created the qualifying round, etc. So I'm ready to create a timetable for this. So I'll click back on this clock again, and you'll notice the system will default to 5 p.m., which is the start time for the event that I have currently selected. It also defaults to the current date, 10/28. You can in this system create timetables for dates in the future. It works the same way as today. Just be aware that when you're creating and working with the event and the timetable, that you are working within the right date. When I select different dates, this grid will refresh and show the current items in the current date. So whatever I start adding here, it's going to start building the timetable from 5 p.m. onward. So let's say the very first thing I want to do is do a 10-minute practice. On the right-hand side here, there's an add item option, and there's all sorts of different things I can add. Driver's meeting, some time for reseating, just a generic delay that I can put notes and be specific about what the delay is for, a meal break, a tour presentation. So this can be used, and we did use this for even IFMAR World, so you can use this at major events or just at clubs to help keep things on track. So let's go back to what I was saying here. I'm going to do a practice, and I'm going to put 10 minutes, and I'm going to put in a note here just simply saying 5 at a time. And I'll hit Add Item. And you'll notice it adds the first item in the timetable right at 5 o'clock. It's going to be 10 minutes, and it's for practice. You'll also know that the time then grays out. So I can no longer adjust my starting time here, but if I want to, I can update it here. So let's say I really wanted this whole event to start at 6. I can hit 6 p.m. and hit update start time to do that. I'm going to do that a little later after I add some other things, just to show you how nice and automated the timetable can be. So now that I've done that, maybe after practice I want to then say, all right, I want to have a driver's meeting. So let's make a 10-minute driver's meeting. I'll remove the notes here because I don't need anything after that, and hit add. And you notice that the moment I clicked on one of these things, this button changed to say after selected item. So no matter what we have here already, I can click anywhere and hit add, and it'll put it right underneath, and everything else will move out the right amount of time. So I hit driver's meeting and hit add item, and here we go. So now I have a 10-minute practice, a 10-minute driver's meeting so far in our timetable. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to actually add the round. So we've already created the round, so I can simply go here and say add my Q1, and I want to base it on the Q1 I have in here already. I'm going to do a 120-second or 2-minute warm-up before each race, and I'm going to put 60 seconds of padding. So the system is smart enough to know that you already have it set up to run 5-minute races. And so what it's going to do is it's going to put 6-minute races here, 5 minutes plus the 60 seconds we've added here. So hit Add Round Items, and it'll put it at the bottom. I could also select it, and it'll put it underneath. So I'll just do that now, and here you go, and here you go. So you have the 3 heats that I showed you earlier, each with a warm-up, 2-minute warm-up, 6-minute race, each on down the line. And you can see the time automatically is building up. Now let's say that I'm going to do another delay so I can reseed, and let's say it takes me 5 minutes to do reseeding and post it, and everyone gets to know what they're at. I'll add that item here. And then I want to add, I'm going to run a second qualifier. Well, I don't have a second qualifier actually made yet, but I can tell the system to predict what that's going to be. So I can say generate a timetable for Q2, which isn't created yet, but base it on Q1, I'm going to still have 3 heats. They're just going to be sorted within. I can hit add around items. And this system will build that and predict what the heat is going to be because I have predict race info. If I uncheck this, you'll notice this goes away because that hasn't really been created yet. But clicking it back says, okay, predict it. Yep, this is based on Q1, and there you go. Once I actually create a Q2, you can come back here, and even if you uncheck this, the real information will be listed because it now exists. Okay, so let's say that after this reseeding, I also want to create a meal break. I don't know why you don't want a meal break, but let's just say that you did. I just want to demonstrate how you can insert something. So I can hit reseeding here and say, let's put in a meal break and hit add item after. And you'll see what it does. It pops in a meal break right in here and everything else pushes out. So it's really easy to go back and insert parts that, hey, I wanted to add this break or adjust this. Let's say I wanted my meal break to be 10 minutes instead of 5. You'll notice that as I click different items, this update item piece adjusts the amount of seconds based on what you have highlighted. So if I click on meal break and I adjust this to 600 seconds and I hit update, this turns to 10 minutes and everything else adjusts accordingly. So you can see how I can easily build this. Maybe I want my meal break before reseeding. I can highlight meal break, hit the up arrow, and now meal break is before reseeding. If I want to, I don't really want to have the whole qualifier 2 in my timetable, I can shift select. You'll notice a lot of things get grayed out because if I have 6 things selected, I can't edit them or add them where would it add it. But I am able to say delete selected. And when I do that, it'll say, hey, you sure you want to delete all of them? Hit yes, and they all go away. So hopefully you get a good idea here about how you can build up a timetable and be ready to go. As soon as you want to print it, you can go ahead and directly print it or hit view timetable here first. Maybe you want to export it and save it to a PDF or Excel sheet or print. So you can hit the print button up here, or in this little disk save piece, you have the ability to export it to Excel or save it as a PDF, etc., whatever you'd like. And by the way, this welcome to the event here, that is the text that's up here. So if you want that title to change, you can just type in whatever you'd like. Okay, now before we go to the race screen and start using this, a couple more things to note. There are a bunch of options right here for automatic progression. Just like in countdowns, the system can automatically do a number of things for you if you want it to. You can automatically advance the next scheduled item, meaning it'll select the next race for you after the existing one is done. You can automatically start the race, you can automatically finish the race based on the timetable. But just as before, you do need to be very careful with this and make sure you understand what it's doing, especially with the automatic finish race. If you're not careful, it could finish the race before the people on the track are done. So make sure you're giving especially enough padding here after a race expires that if you think that they're going to do 20-second laps, you give yourself a 60-second padding to make sure you can get finished with the race and everyone can get their last especially in a staggered race, of course, can get over the finish line and get that last lap in before the system automatically finishes it for you. I'm going to turn all of these on just to demonstrate how they work. And as soon as I'm ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and hit race. Now, remember, it's 2:44 right now on the clock, but we're telling the system we want to start at 5 p.m. So we are about 2 hours and 15 minutes early. So I'm going to click on the race screen, and you'll see what the system does here. It says, okay, there's a countdown to the start of the program, and so far it says 0, meaning we are right on time. So if this countdown goes all the way to 0, when we hit practice, we're not going to be behind schedule or ahead of schedule. We're going to be right on schedule. However, if I use the VCRs to say, okay, go ahead and progress right to practice, we're going to start practice now instead of start it at in 2 hours and 14 minutes from now. When I click on that, now it's starting the practice countdown, the 10-minute countdown, and you'll notice this in green says, hey, because I'm starting practice now and not 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I am that much ahead of schedule. This system will constantly tell you how ahead or behind schedule you are. So you might be wondering, why isn't this number adjusting? It's because as long as this ticker goes all the way down to 0 before you do your driver's meeting, you're right on schedule. So this is going to count down, but you're still going to be 2 hours and 14 minutes ahead of schedule. If you become behind schedule, by the way, this turns red. So you'll be able to kind of watch it, and as you progress through races, know how you're doing in terms of time. So I'm going to hit the if I want to say, well, I want to fast forward here. Let's see. We'll say we'll do the practice in 3 minutes. Okay, great. Now you see instead of 2 hours and 15 minutes ahead of schedule, we're 2 hours and 20 minutes because we're going to do the practice even earlier. So this will adjust as you go. If I tell the system, hey, pause, pause the whole timetable, great. But as I'm waiting to start the timetable up again, now I'm starting to lose time, right? Now I'm starting to get to a point where I'm only going to be 2 hours and 19 minutes or 2 hours and 18 minutes ahead of schedule because we're getting closer and closer to being caught up to the time where we really were going to start practice in the first place. This takes a little bit to get used to, but I guarantee you, as you start working with it and go through races, this will give you an absolutely up-to-date time as to where you are during the whole race program. So get used to it and you're going to love it. I'll go ahead and I'll progress to the driver's meeting next. I'm even more ahead of schedule because I didn't wait the full 10 minutes for practice before the driver's meeting, etc. Now, the system does keep you in sync. So you'll notice I was actually set to race 3 accidentally. So when I hit race 1, it's actually going to go, oh, you're at race 1, and it's going to go right to that point in the timetable and start the countdown, which the first thing about that race is the 2-minute warm-up. So that'll happen now.
2 minutes to the start of the race.
Okay, so things are starting to count down, and we're getting close to starting the race. Now, because I have auto start and auto finish and everything on, if I don't touch this, after 2 minutes, the race will start. And after 6 minutes of the race running, the race will finish. So if you're doing countdown timetable, a countdown to finish the race starts after the time expires. But when you're using detailed timetables like we're doing today, it's saying from the very start of the race, after 6 minutes, it finishes. It doesn't care if the full clock got finished or not. It's just a straight 6 minutes from the start of the race. So I'll demonstrate that now. I'm going to go to the arrow the next item, and because I'm going to the next item, it's going to automatically start the race. Okay, so you see it's starting to count down my 5-minute race, and as it's kicking down, it's basically saying in less than 6 minutes now, I'm going to auto finish. So you can look at both of the clocks and see, all right, there's about 5 minutes for the race left, and about an extra minute before it's going to stop. My laps so far are about 15 seconds. That's good. That's going to mean that I'm going to have like about 4 laps worth of buffer after the end of the race before I have to finish it. And now they're racing even faster, and that's great. Okay, so if I elect to finish a race automatically, like I'll just tell it I'm going to finish it right now by clicking the finish button. The race finishes. I'm printing out my results right now automatically, which you can still set and it'll automatically do. But you'll notice that the timer still says, hey, I still have 5 minutes left here before I need to switch race and be on schedule. So if you switch to race 2,
2 minutes to the start of the race.
It'll automatically catch itself up and give you the extra time that you earned by finishing the race and switching quicker than with the original timetable. So now I'm gaining time here. So that's kind of how you can play around with the timetable and the schedule. You rewind and fast forward still works. So if you say, hey, I need an extra minute for this race before I start, I'll hit rewind. You'll notice I'll lose a minute on my overall schedule here. That's because by delaying a minute, it means I'm going to lose a minute on my timetable, etc. But because I'm so far ahead of schedule, it's pretty clear here. I'm just fine. So that's really all there is to it. With the timetable in place, it just continues to click through. Now, if I go back to this timetable settings, I can always go back and I can adjust. But once I do that, so if I go back to the timetable and I can make some adjustments like, okay, I'm going to tell the system I really wanted to start this program at 2 p.m.
To the start of the race.
Once I do that and update it, now I go back to the race.
2 minutes to the start of the race.
And you'll notice it goes, oh boy, we're already behind. The moment I go back to the race screen, it goes, okay, we're on race 2. I'm going to get you right to race 2 right away. We don't have time for that countdown before the timetable starts. And you'll notice now I'm behind, right? I'm behind here by a good 22 minutes. Why 22 minutes? Because it already says you should have gotten through practice, driver's meeting, the race warm-ups, etc. So I look at this and I go, 28 minutes here, then, I'm already at the warm up, another 22 from 250, and then that's about how far behind we are. Now, because I'm paused and we're not progressing the race, I'm even losing more time on the timetable. So I'll go back to the race. I'll switch to race 3.
2 minutes to the
And
start
you'll
of
notice
the race.
I caught up on some time, right? So now that I'm on race 3, I've bought myself 8 more minutes because that's where I should be in the timetable. But I'm still behind because I should have started this thing at 2 and etc. Also, just to point out, the timetable always tells you the very next item that's coming up. So if you're in the middle of a race and you're kind of curious, hey, is there going to be delay? Is there a resort, or is the very next race here? You'll always see that here behind. So a little tip if you just want to have an idea of where you're at. Also, if you go back to the timetable and you just want to view and print the timetable, that's fine, but that doesn't pause the timetable. Time is always clicking along, so just keep that in mind too. This will continue to work, especially when you have stuff like auto start. This is going to start the race regardless of what you're doing in live time. It is going to keep you to the schedule, especially if you say that you're going to automatically start. So just be very careful with that and keep an eye on it. If you don't feel as comfortable about being so strict to a schedule,
1 minute to the start of the race.
you can always just not tell it to automatically start the race. So I'll click on that, and then I'll click back on the race
2
here.
minutes to the start of the race.
And let me just show you what happens if I tell it not to automatically start the race. So I know I'm supposed to start race 3. I haven't done it yet. I didn't tell it to automatically start the race. What it does is it pauses it for you. It says, well, we're not going to start the race yet. We're just going to wait for you to hit that start button. But in the meantime, we're going to lose more and more time off the timetable. So you can see, all right, I'm waiting for marshals to get out there. I'm waiting for my car to get out there. This is delaying me. I need to do something about it. All right, that about does it. That is the whole detailed timetable in a nutshell. I really encourage you to play around with it, give it a shot yourselves, and hopefully you'll find it a very valuable tool for keeping track of your event. Thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to having you on other videos in the future. Thank you.